I sent out this past week's 3M, and I mentioned that Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays, and I guess I would be lying to you if I said the turkey and dressing or the chocolate pie, something along those lines, didn't have something to do with it. But I've always enjoyed, maybe most importantly, the time spent with family. I can't speak for everyone, but I know our family. There are those members of the family that you just don't see every single day, so it is good to catch up with those, and I hope you've had the opportunity to do that this week. Speaking of spending some time with family, you may have noticed, if you are friends with me on Facebook, we took a trip on Friday, just a couple of days ago, and in an effort to spend some time with family. Tripp, our son, if you are aware, has one of those, what you may call an unfortunate Christmas season birthday. He's December the 18th. Now, I'm not. I'm middle of the summer, so this is not an issue for me, but I have heard, maybe through my raising, that those Christmas season babies, they might feel like they get the short end of the stick come birthday present time. I don't know if that's true or not, but with our case, we've tried to do some things with Tripp over the years where we simply space out that birthday season. So one of the things that he had ran across that he was interested in was he had seen that the Atlanta Braves, now you don't have to talk to me very long to know that that's my team. And the Atlanta Braves were doing this holiday package where you could drive down and you got a Christmas picture with Blooper, the mascot. So we did that. We went down and we got to see Blooper. We've done the stadium tour before of Truist Park. That's really neat if you're a fan. That's a neat opportunity. But they don't show you the locker room. They don't show you, there's different things. So we went down on Friday. We got to go in the locker room. We got to see the indoor batting cages. And maybe one of the more cool opportunities for me as a dad was we got to play catch in the outfield. So that was neat. I enjoyed that opportunity. And as I prepared my thoughts for today, I thought this story was pretty fitting. If you want to turn that way, we will not read a lot of scripture today, but we will spend some time looking specifically at one verse. We're going to be in Proverbs chapter 22. If you would like to be there, we will get there shortly. Keeping that in mind, I would find it safe to say that Tripp's desire to take this trip on Friday, just a couple days ago, I think it's safe to say that may have started on October the 23rd, 2021. I don't expect many of you, maybe Drew would be about the only person that I would expect to know what that date is. But on October the 23rd, 2021, I would say it's a safe assumption at that point to say that my 7-year-old son at that time was a Mario kid. He was a video gamer. He liked watching YouTube videos, and I tried and tried and tried to make him watch the Atlanta Braves. I tried and tried and tried. Sadly enough, John, congratulations, I tried to make him a Tennessee Vols fan, and it wasn't going anywhere. October the 23rd, 2021 is Game 6 of the NLCS. The Atlanta Braves are playing the Dodgers. Now, if you're a baseball fan, the Braves had not been to the World Series since 1999. If they win this game, they're going back. So it's kind of a momentous deal as a Braves fan. Well, we're at Troy Berry's house, and we're hanging out. Tripp goes to bed normally around 8 o'clock. It's got to be between 10 and 11 o'clock. I'm sitting in the recliner. Tripp's on the couch. And I look over at one point, and remember, he's not really just die-hard baseball fan yet, but I look over at one point, and I'm expecting to look over and see a kid who is struggling to stay awake. Quite the opposite. He's not tired at all. He is locked into the game. He is wide-eyed and ready to go. I took a picture. I don't know why. I still have that picture. I could pull it up and show it to you later today if you want to see it. But what I captured was something that was a neat moment for me, because what I captured was a kid falling in love with baseball. But more importantly than falling in love with baseball, I captured a moment where I saw my son falling in love with the Braves, just like his dad, just like his granddad, and just like his great-granddad. He winds up staying up the whole game. I'm not sure that he ever blinked. And if you know how that night concluded, I know Drew does. The Braves end up winning 4-2. They advance to the World Series. I was actually able to attend Game 4 of that World Series. I took my dad, and we were there in person. I would prefer not to tell you how much I paid for those tickets, but I will tell you that if you offered me that amount of money back today, I would not exchange the memories. I would not take the trade. Now, I'm willing to admit that our topic this morning is far more important than a game of baseball. It's far more important than sport. But I'm not sure when it comes to Tripp being a Tennessee football fan or an Atlanta Braves fan or a baseball fan, I'm just not sure he ever had a choice. He had been and still is influenced and shaped and molded by the people surrounding him. And that shaping or molding, I think you could safely say, is called training. And that's exactly what our verse is about this morning. If you look in Proverbs chapter 22, in verse 6, you'll see it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." I'm not sure that I would apologize for hoping that Tripp and I would one day watch sports together. But I do recognize it's not the most important thing. So as we start our study this morning on Proverbs 22:6, I want to consider the impact of this passage not in sport, but in discipleship. As you may know, I'm in my 16th year of education. I've been teaching at Middle Tennessee Christian School, now part-time, but the previous 15 years full-time. But I'm in my 16th year of education, and I've noticed a few things. I know we have some fellow teachers in the audience, and I think I'll get some head nods at this. But the first thing, unfortunately for our children, those of you who are listening, the teacher learns the name of the discipline problem kids first. And if you don't know why that is, it's because they have to say their name the most often. "Johnny, would you please be quiet? Sit down." "No, you cannot put your chair on top of the table." It's all of those things. We learn that child's name the quickest. You get the point. But secondly, though, I've learned that maturity at a young age, it stands out. And it's simple things. It's a good, firm handshake. It's making eye contact in conversation. It's having a good work ethic. The use of good manners, saying things like, "Yes, sir," "No, sir," "Please," "Thank you," "You're welcome." Those things stand out at a young age. And unfortunately, those things are fleeting in society. Well, how do they know? How do these kids know that they should do those things? How do they know that a good, firm handshake? How do they know that eye contact? How do they know those things are important? Well, it's not an accident. They had to have been trained up. It's not to say that these children are perfect by any means. Even these kids, too, will make mistakes, but they stand out due to their quality character. And I've seen the same thing here in my short months as the youth minister at Salem Creek. I've seen those same things here. I've seen it in not only the classroom at MTCS, but I've seen it in our building. And it's my goal in my role to assist in helping our young ones possess these skills. I'm not sure if you've paid much attention, but as you exit our building on whether it be a Sunday morning, Sunday night, it doesn't matter. There's a herd of, they're not bumblebees, they're children. As you exit the building, you have to be a little bit cautious. Now, granted, I hope you understand, I've talked with the kids too, that maybe they will get away from the building and not play right in front of the doors, but we have a blessing of a wealth of kids. It's all of our responsibility to help to train them up. So as we break down this verse this morning, I'd like to consider it in three separate sections. First, I would like to consider, how do we train up a child? The second point that we'll look at is in the way he should go. And then the third thing to consider this morning is when he is old, he will not depart from it. So our first section is to train up a child. I'm what you may consider to be a laid-back teacher. If you know me personally very well, that's not going to shock you. I'm a fairly laid-back person. There are times where people wish I would show more concern, and it's not that I don't care. I'm an easygoing individual. Our administration at MTCS tells us every year, if you are teaching curriculum in the first week of school, you're getting it wrong. They want you to teach procedures and expectations and all the consequences and all the rules. I don't want to tell you that I don't respect administration, but I don't do that. I don't spend my time establishing the rules and establishing the consequences and hammering the points. I just don't do that. It's been my experience in 16 years that if I told the kids, if I told my students, there is only one rule in my classroom, one, and one rule only, that's it. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you stand up during class or sit down. Just never touch the light switch. Now, what do you think would happen for the next 180 days of school? Those kids would want to know one thing, and that's it. What will happen if I do touch the light switch? Kids are curious. They are inquisitive. They want to know what is going to happen. They want to know if the boundaries that you say exist are real. They want to know what will happen if I don't do that. So considering this morning, how do we train up a child? I would like to suggest there are 4 ways that we can do that. And the first is that we must set expectations. We must set expectations. We have to talk about behaviors, what behaviors are healthy, what behaviors are expected, what behaviors are not allowed. If we can't tell them what is expected, we can't expect them to know, yet alone do, what we're asking them to do. So it's important that the children know what is expected of them. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7 says, "And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise." If we want our children to meet our expectations, they must first know what they are. Second, we need to look for teachable moments. Children are imperfect. They are going to mess up. Maybe more importantly, it's important for you to know they are going to fail. And it's also important that you need to know from a teacher and a coach, it's important that you let them. Let your children fail at times. There's times where they're going to let you down. There's times they're going to not do what you ask them to do. And yet every moment offers an opportunity to help our children learn what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. We have to praise them in our successes, praise him in our successes, and praise him in our failures. I coach Tripp's little travel baseball team, and we talk about this consistently. But we say that in games, you either win or you learn. What cost us the chance to win today? And you learn from those mistakes. You either win or you learn. Well, that doesn't only apply to a baseball game. That's life. What cost me an opportunity to succeed today, and how can I not experience that again? There's value that comes from both. Our third way to train up a child is to understand that we, as the role models, as the parents, as the aunts, as the uncles, as the peer that hangs out with, you can't just talk the talk. That it's important that you have to walk the walk. It's imperative that we model what we want from our kids. If we stress that something is important and yet don't do it ourselves, we lose credibility. I had a former boss when I worked in college that said this. He said, "Do as I say, not as I do." Well, that may have worked at the batting cages in Smyrna, Tennessee, but I'm not sure that it works in creating future disciples. Our fourth way to train up a child is to talk about consequences and then follow through them in love. As important as it is for our children to know what is expected of them, it is equally important that they know what will happen when they don't. We need to establish what will happen if boundary lines are crossed, if rules are broken, and we cannot force our children to do certain actions. They do have freedom of choice, but they need to know when they cross a line, when they break a rule, they need to know what penalty will be faced. As we've said, they are going to make mistakes. We all do. But when they do, we need to carry it out. If you don't, you would lose credibility and their respect. They would think you're not willing to stick to your word. However, when carrying out corrections, do it out of a spirit of love. If we are an emotional bottle rocket and our children come to us and they're not sure what is going to happen, we face the chance that they may, out of fear, not come to us. And I have heard John Pickard talk about this in the past. But your children are going to go somewhere. Make sure it's to you. Make sure it is to you. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4, Paul says, "Fathers, do not provoke your child to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." In Colossians chapter 3, verse 21, he shares a similar thought, which says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged." What you say in times of discipline, what you do are certainly part of correction process. However, how you do those things, that may have the greatest impact on how they are received. The whole point to corrective discipline is to encourage a certain type of behavior. It's not letting them get letting them go the way you tell them to go. It's about teaching them the way they should go, the way that leads best to a good quality life. So discipline is not about control. It's about direction. And that leads us to our second part of the verse this morning, the way he should go. When our children test the limits, it can be frustrating. There can be little moments where you as a parent consider giving up, throwing your hands up, walking away from a situation, giving in, and giving them what they want. Please don't do that. Don't miss an opportunity to practice one of those teachable moments. Don't give up on the process. The process of molding and shaping our youth is a long and tedious one, but it is really what is best for them. Giving in and allowing them to have their way may end up doing more harm than good. In the future, if you give in to them, this gives them the idea that discipline is a game of willpower. If I cry long enough, if I yell long enough, if I scream long enough, if I don't do what I want to long enough, eventually they'll give in and I will get what I want. That's not the goal of our training. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 18 says to discipline your son, for there is hope. The hope that is being considered here is that while your child may not be doing what you want them to do in the present moment, that you have every reason to believe that in the future they will. Understand that this is a process and we are playing a long game. However, this is not a one-sided game either. The responsibility falls on the child to be obedient as well. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 12 says, "Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you." Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." God's intentions from the very beginning were to establish a family hierarchy. Children are to obey their parents, and parents are to guide their children in the way. There will be moments of shortcomings, and at times it will be frustrating, maybe even painful. But remember the goal. We're leading them the way of making good choices and leading them in a life of discipleship towards Jesus. It really is the way they should go. As we teach them which way to go, we must teach balance. How do you teach faith and discipleship not just on a church pew on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m., but how do you teach that in a restaurant in dealings with a waiter? How do you teach that in a baseball game? How do you teach that in school dealing with a teacher? How do you teach that in social interactions peer-to-peer? That discipleship is not just a place to go, it's a way of life. They'll know that this is the way to go if it is something they are taught. When children taste success of doing things right, they tend to want to recreate those actions. They will learn which words and actions have brought them good feelings and which experiences have brought them discipline, shame, and guilt. They'll know what to do and what is healthy if they are taught. And that leads us to our final part of the verse this morning. "And when he is old, he will not depart from it." This proverb is a statement that will generally hold true. But it's also important for us to recognize that it's not a promise. It's not a guarantee, I guess would be a better word. Some parents face heartbreak when a child raised in the right wanders off and chooses to go their own way. It's easy to ask yourself, where did things go wrong? And that can be a helpless feeling. When we see our children in moments of trouble, when we tried to teach them better, it's easy to wear that personally. If that is you this morning, please hear this, and it's a good reminder for us all. Your child's choices are not your choices. Their failures are not your failures. They are individuals, and they will mess up at times. Children are not math formulas or cooking recipes. There are times where you can do everything right, only for them to reject your teachings and get it wrong. It doesn't reflect on your abilities to train up as a child. It's just the next teachable moment. Part of growing up is learning responsibility. And we're learning that big time in our house right now with a middle schooler. Parenting is a gradual process. If you wanted to picture a timeline, it's easy to see that at the start of life, a child needs 100% of your attention. They need everything. They are solely dependent on you. Their life is in your hands. You have to feed them, care for them, do all the things. They need 100% assistance from you to live. And the goal is, now I don't know where you want to end this timeline. I don't know if you want to say at 18 when they become adults, or if you want to say as long as they shall live. But the goal of parenting is that by the time you get to the end, they don't need you anymore. And that doesn't mean that you are worthless. It means that you have given them everything you have. It's a gradual process that through the age of a growing level of responsibility that you wean yourself from a need-based relationship, that you have taught them everything there is to know. It's also important to recognize that each child is an individual, that no two are the same. What worked for the first may not work for the next. Parenting takes love, wisdom, and patience. It's also important to remember there will be ups and downs along the way. There will be good days and bad. In all of this, please don't let social media pressure you either. It's something I try to talk about frequently, but it's so easy to compare ourselves to what someone else is doing that we have to keep up with the Joneses, or they took their kids here, or they did that. Please don't allow yourself to fall into that trap. Remember, our goal is not popularity. It's leading them closer to Christ. One heavy thing to consider about this passage this morning is if you consider it in a negative light. Train up your child in the way they shall go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. What if there is no correction process when they are young? What if there is no corrective discipline? What if they are allowed to do whatever they want as a child? If they grow up in sin and there is no corrective process, when they are old, they will not depart from it. We have a responsibility to get this right. Neglecting correction could have eternal consequences. Well, after considering these thoughts, I know some in the audience may not have children yet. You may be thinking, my goodness, that's a lot of responsibility. Some of these things have been heavy to consider. Is having children worth it at all? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. When parenting is done right, when children are obedient, when you see the light bulb turn on in these teachable moments, life doesn't offer many opportunities more rewarding than those. There's much pride and joy in watching a young one grow up into a mature young one that makes good eye contact, that shakes a good hand, and that uses good manners. We've talked a lot about our children this morning, but let's turn this thought inward on ourselves. If you are here this morning, you're not a parent, this applies to you too. All of you serve as examples to these young ones. Someone is always watching, which means we all have influence in shaping our youth. Whether you have a child or not, we are all children of God. So consider this thought personally. Have you been obedient to His teachings? Have you allowed Him and His Word to shape you into the person you are today? Have you been obedient? Have you wandered? Have you let Him and His Word shape you? The beautiful thing is that even though we oftentimes get it wrong, God is patient. He is loving. He remains present. He wants what is best for you. He's an excellent example. He wants you to go the right way and to not depart from it. And why is that? John 14, 1 through 6 has been read so many times. For I go to prepare a place. Well, I don't know the way you are going. I am the way. Jesus is the way. And discipleship and obedience to him is the way. Following Jesus is not always easy. It reminds me of a story. Ken Rideout is the name of a man who holds the record for the fastest marathon runner from someone over the age of 50. In his younger life, he faced opioid addictions, but since he has been sober for over a decade. In his sobriety, he challenged himself to complete more than 10 Ironman triathlons. He has also completed a 155-mile race across the desert of Mongolia. There's a book that tells his story. The title of the book is Everything You Want is on the Other Side of Hard. His path was not easy. Being a Braves fan is not always easy. Being a Tennessee fan is not always easy. But more important than sports, using your manners is not always easy. Parenting is not always easy. Being a Christian is not always easy, but it's always worth it. October the 23rd, 2021, I saw a young boy fall in love with the game of baseball, and it brought me great pride. But nothing compares to the pride and joy we should all feel in watching a young person fall in love with Jesus. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. If you are here this morning and find yourself ready to become an obedient member of God's family, know that we can make that happen. If you have joined that family, but like the lost son in Luke 15, have roamed off and chosen to go your own way, won't you come back home? My favorite part of that story is always when the son comes back home and the father sees him. I always picture this as he's sitting on that front porch. He doesn't stay seated. He doesn't put his arms out and wait. If you recall what happens in that passage, he runs in his direction to meet him halfway. If you need the prayers of the church this morning, or if we can help you in any way, please come now as we stand, as we sing.